Ranking our credit card setups is something that's become pretty popular in the credit card YouTube space as of recent past. And thanks to some requests from you guys, I figured today would be the day that I'd do that myself. For those that are unfamiliar with this concept as a whole, I'll be ranking my credit cards from S tier to D tier, S tier being the highest, and that stands for like super or special or whatever you want. And then D tier we'll consider to be the dog water tier, since that's the lowest we're going to go today. So for every tier in between, A tier is going to be for awesome, B tier will be for better than average, and C tier is going to be average. Yes, these tier lists do usually go down to F tier, but luckily for me, in doing this exercise for myself before recording this, I really didn't feel like I had any F tier credit cards, so I figured it was kind of just a waste of space and just decided to go down to D for this video. And as a bonus for y'all clicking into this video and watching today, I'm not only going to rank the 12 credit cards that I currently have in my setup, but also a couple of extra credit cards that I have product changed from. That way, if you're at a different stage in your journey, you can get my opinions on cards that I used to have, but have now moved away from to get more value. With all that admin stuff out of the way, let's go ahead and dive in, starting with the first ever credit card I applied for, and then move our way down the timeline to where we're at today. So that's going to lead us to card number 1 here in my backup wallet, that being the Chase Freedom Student. So we're already starting off with a card that I don't actually use anymore, but it was one that really did give me a good amount of value for what it was whenever I first started my credit card journey. The Chase Freedom Student is actually not even a card that you can apply for anymore. They completely got rid of it and replaced it with the Chase Freedom Rise credit card, which is arguably better. But specific to the Chase Freedom Student, it was a card that only college students could apply for. And back at the start of my credit card journey, I didn't really know where else to start. I was banking with Chase, so I decided to get started with their student credit card, and I'm really glad I did. Just to list off a couple of quick benefits, or I guess benefits that I personally got value from. It did come with a $50 welcome offer for making like any purchase at all on the card. And then as for earning categories, it just gave me a flat 1% back on everything, which obviously not very great. It had some cool stuff like $20 good standing rewards like every year for up to 5 years. And of course had no annual fee since it was a starter credit card, and a good starter credit card at that. And like I just mentioned, it has been recently replaced by the Chase Freedom Rise credit card, and in my opinion, that card is probably like a C tier credit card, like it's average, but it serves its purpose really well. And the reason I would actually say that it's better than the Chase Freedom Student is not only because it gives you a higher flat earning rate at 1.5% back on all of your purchases, but also because it's accessible to anybody. You don't have to be a college student, but this gives you the ability to start in the Chase ecosystem early on, no matter if you bank with them or not, or if you're in college or not. Really, anybody can get started with this card. But going back to the Chase Freedom Student, whenever you compare this card, or really even the Chase Freedom Rise, with other beginner credit cards like the Discover It, for example, you can get way more value from the first year of having that credit card than you can with the Chase Freedom Student or the Rise, which is why for the Chase Freedom Student, I'm unfortunately going to put this one in the D tier, the dog water tier. And it does kind of pain me to do that because the card itself was not bad. I think it was actually a card that I would recommend a lot of people get started with, just for the simple fact of the matter that you're getting started in Chase's ecosystem. And by getting started with them first, you can effectively manage your Chase 524 status from the get-go, while also getting at least something back for all of your spend, albeit it's only 1%, but that's better than nothing. And further than that, I mean, whenever you compare this card to all of the other credit cards in my setup, it just doesn't hold a candle. So it's going to be the lowest card rank that we have today, sitting in D tier. So go ahead and move this one up from our options down below into the D tier section. And we'll go back into my backup wallet to pull out card number 2 here, that being the OG Chase Freedom. So this is the card that I decided to product change my Chase Freedom Student to after a while of holding it, mainly because I just wanted to get more value out of this card. And yes, you heard me right. I said the OG Chase Freedom card, not the Chase Freedom Unlimited or Chase Freedom Flex. As you can see here, if I can get it in focus in the camera, there's no wording underneath that Freedom logo at the top because it literally just is the Freedom credit card. This is once again a discontinued card from Chase, meaning that you can't apply fresh for it anymore. But unlike the Freedom Student, you can actually product change to the OG Chase Freedom still if you get the right customer service representative. And that's really what it comes down to these days, it seems. Now, why would you want to do that whenever you can get the Chase Freedom Flex or Freedom Unlimited that would give you technically better value? And really the biggest reason for that is because you don't take up a welcome bonus slot when product changing to this card compared to the other Freedom cards. As y'all may know, you can get the welcome offer again on the Chase Freedom cards every 2 years, but since you can't apply fresh for the OG Chase Freedom, you're not taking up one of those welcome bonus slots. So for those of us that like to manage multiple cards and maybe want to get multiple sign-up bonuses on the same cards, being able to product change down to this card is actually really powerful. On top of that, this card actually isn't bad. It gives you the same access to the rotating 5% categories that the Chase Freedom Flex does, also with no annual fee, and 1% back on all of your other spending. So obviously from the Chase Freedom Student to this one, that's a big upgrade for me. And a small note here too is that since it gives you the access to the same 5% categories that the Freedom Flex does, if you're somebody that is constantly spending over that $1,500 per quarter cap in those 5% rotating categories, having this card in combination with another Freedom Flex will effectively increase your cap to say $3,000 compared to $1,500. And the more OG Chase Freedom cards you have, or Chase Freedom Flexes you have, the higher that cap really is for you, just split across different cards. Now, similar to the Chase Freedom Student, I do think that this card serves its purpose really well. It serves a niche specific use case, but it's not really one that I personally use. And this whole ranking is going to be based on my value of these cards, not necessarily what you would get from them. And the biggest reason for that is because I'm just not really a fan of the rotating category cards. Maybe hard to believe as somebody with 12 credit cards, but I do actually prefer simplicity when it comes to the credit card game in a lot of ways. And one of those ways has to do with not tracking rotating categories all the time. So again, for my use case, I think that this card is actually probably a C tier credit card for me. It's average, serves its purpose well, but not going to do much else for me. So we'll go ahead and move this one up into that C tier, and then move on to my next credit card that I applied for after the Freedom Student, because remember the OG Chase Freedom was a product change, that being the Chase Freedom Unlimited. Now I actually have to grab this card out of my backup wallet as well, because it's again a card that I've stopped using as much recently. And maybe that's not exactly true. I use it a lot for my online purchases, but I don't carry it with me because I have another catch-all credit card that I use in person, which we'll be talking about later. Now, as for the value that I've personally gotten from this credit card, the first place would be the welcome offer. And I applied during an elevated welcome offer period, giving me not only the base 20,000 points for spending $500 in the first 3 months of having it, but I also got 5% back on gas stations for the first year of having it, up to $6,000 spent. And just so y'all know, there's basically always an elevated offer out there on the Chase Freedom credit cards. I do my best to always have those linked down below for you, and I'm constantly updating my links to give you the best public welcome offer available. So of course, always feel free to check down there and also support the channel at no additional cost to you. But yeah, the welcome offer gave me a good amount of value. And then as for earning categories, this card gives you 5% back on Chase travel purchases, 3% back on dining and drugstores, and then a flat 1.5% back on everything else, which is the main thing that I use this card for. And of course, all of this comes at you with no annual fee because it's one of Chase's Freedom credit cards. Like I mentioned earlier, while I use this card a little bit less now, or at least less in person, it's a great card to have for me in my back pocket for whenever I'm running low on Chase points, which seems to be pretty frequently. So that, in combination with the fact that this card just earned me a ton of Chase Ultimate Rewards points when I first got started in the credit card game. And when I say that, I mean, like, I literally used it for all of my purchases for probably the first 12 months of me really having credit cards, makes this card hold a special place in my heart. And I still think that it is one, if not the best, beginner credit card for people to get, specifically for those that are a little bit more casual in the credit card game and really want to remain within one or maybe two ecosystems. As y'all know, I think Chase is really the best for that, at least for me personally, because I love their transfer partners and stuff. So for that reason, I'm actually going to be slotting the Chase Freedom Unlimited into the B tier. In reality, if they would make this card just a flat 2% card instead of 1.5%, it could easily be an A tier credit card with the other earning categories it gives you. But since it still kind of just lacks some power and could really use a bit of a boost, I think B tier is pretty good for it. Now, going back to the fact that I kind of alter my setup depending on what points I need more of at the time, the way that I can tell whenever I need more points in a specific ecosystem is by using an app called Max Rewards. For those that don't know, Max Rewards is an all-in-one credit card management app that allows you to track basically everything about all of your credit cards in one place, even if they come from a multitude of lenders. So that means no more swapping between different lenders' apps to see your total point balances, total card balances, bill due dates, and more. You get that all in one interface with Max Rewards. So for this specific situation with my catch-all credit cards in which one I alternate between, that being the Chase Freedom Unlimited or the Capital One Venture X, I can go into Max Rewards and see where my point balances align with each of those lenders. And if I see my Capital One mile stash going high, but I see my Chase points going down, then I'll swap in the Freedom Unlimited for a while until I can kind of even those back out. And while the free features of Max Rewards are great, they also have a paid tier called Max Rewards Gold that will not only automatically activate your quarterly rotating categories for you on your cards like your Chase Freedom Flex or OG Chase Freedom, but will also automatically activate all of your credit card offers for you, which will just help you save money in the background and could cover the cost of the subscription for you. If you want to just check out even the free features of Max Rewards, please be sure to download it through the link in my description. And when you sign up, you can use the promo code Spencer to give you a 1-month discount off of your annual subscription of Max Rewards Gold. As always, thank you to Max Rewards for sponsoring this video, but let's get back to this ranking. Okay, so Freedom Unlimited in B tier. Now it's time to move on to my third credit card I applied for, that being the Chase Sapphire Preferred. Once again, got to pull this card out of my backup wallet because this card has also been product changed in recent past. But y'all know me, you know that I really do love this credit card, and it's one that I recommend basically as much as the Chase Freedom Unlimited, especially again for the casual credit card users. The value that I've personally gotten from this card first came from the welcome offer that I got, which was just the base 60,000 points for spending $4,000 in the first 3 months of having it. And its earning categories aren't insane by any means. They really just kind of overlap with a lot of the Freedom cards categories while giving you a couple couple of extra ones. So you get the same 5x back on Chase travel purchases, 3x on dining, then a couple of extra 3x categories being select streaming services, as well as online grocery store purchases, an additional earning category of 2x on all of your travel purchases, and then 1x back on everything else. Before I product changed, I also used the $50 annual hotel credit that comes on it. And every once in a while, I would utilize the 25% boost that your points get through the Chase travel portal. It also has, great travel insurances, no foreign transaction fees, but it does have a $95 annual fee. The biggest perk though about this card that I haven't mentioned yet is the fact that it gives you access to Chase's transfer partners and does that at the lowest annual fee you can get in the Chase ecosystem. Now, some of y'all might not understand how big of a deal that is if you're not somebody on team travel, or maybe you're just newer to the credit card game, but Chase has some of the best transfer partners, at least for my personal situation, and they do have access to the highest value hotel partner out there, that being Hyatt. Now, for me though, specifically, yes, I do like staying at Hyatt hotels, but I also do fly with Southwest a lot, and Chase is the only lender with access to Southwest, which you can't get until you have this card. Just so y'all know too, the Chase Sapphire Preferred, like I mentioned, gives you that 25% boost through their portal, but even just by transferring out to Southwest, I can usually get 1.4, 1.5 cents per point on all of those redemptions, effectively giving me a 40 to 50% boost on my points, so that's better than the travel portal, of course. And by booking directly with an airline or hotel, you don't have to deal with Chase's travel portal if you were to have to cancel the trip or anything like that. You just deal with it through them, which is really nice. And then with Hyatt, it is very easy to get like an average value of say 2 cents per point for your redemptions with them. So that's giving you a 100% boost on all of your points by just making that transfer. So even for me, just using like those two travel partners, not to mention their awesome international airline partners and all of that, just by using those two partners, I would cover the cost of this annual fee every single year, like 8 to 10 times over, with just even a couple of redemptions, because of the amount of points that I would save by transferring out rather than using their portal or by paying in cash. So with all of that being said, and again, the fact that I really enjoy Chase's ecosystem, that's a disclaimer I've made in all my videos, but especially this one where you might rank your cards differently than me. The Chase Sapphire Preferred to me is really an A tier credit card. Maybe you thought I'd put that in S tier because of, how highly I talk of it, but it does not just like have enough power for me to do that. If the earning categories were better, maybe. But the fact that like 3 of its categories overlap with the free credit cards and the other elevated categories really aren't doing a ton for you means that this card, again, like the other Chase cards, kind of does need some work. And if they were to increase the value that it gives you, maybe it would be an S tier credit card for me. But for now, the fact alone that it gives you access to Chase's transfer partners at the lowest annual fee possible with Chase makes it an A tier credit card for me. Now we can finally get into a card that is in my actual wallet right here, which of course my wallets are always linked down below too if you want a little discount. But the card that I product changed the Chase Sapphire Preferred to is the Chase Sapphire Reserve. Chase Sapphire Reserve is the Chase Sapphire Preferred's big brother basically, and it has an annual fee of $550. Now I did not get the welcome offer on this card because I product changed up to it. And if you are somebody that doesn't have either of these cards, I would apply fresh for it to get the bonus, of course. But for one, you can only ever hold one Sapphire card at a time. And secondly, you can only get a welcome offer on a Sapphire card every 48 months. And since I product changed the Sapphire Preferred after like a year of holding it to the Reserve, I wasn't eligible for an offer either way. But if you were able to get it, the base offer is the exact same as a Sapphire Preferred at 60,000 points for spending $4,000 in the first 3 months of having it. However, the Sapphire Preferred does usually have elevated welcome offer periods, giving you at least 80,000 points. So you could always go for that one first, wait a year, and then product change up to the Reserve, unless you could really use the benefits on the Reserve like immediately. So to cover some of the benefits of it, the earning categories, it's going to give you the same 5x back on flights booked through the Chase Travel Portal, but it boosts you up to 10x back on hotels booked through Chase's Travel Portal. Once again, overlaps on the dining category, giving you 3% there, but increases your earning rate in the travel category to 3x, and then gives you 1x on everything else. So this being a more luxury travel credit card makes it less worth it for the earning categories, but much more worth it for all the other benefits it offers, including a $300 annual travel credit that they are very lenient on. Like really any travel purchase is going to knock down that credit for you, so super easy to get value from. It increases your boost in the portal from 25% to 50%, which is a good jump. Of course, it also gives you access to Chase's transfer partners, so I didn't lose out on any value there. It gives you a Priority Pass Select membership with access to the restaurants and spas, which really only like 2 other credit cards out there give you these days. That's a big perk if you're somebody that likes Priority Pass access. And then the big kicker for me is that it gives you Chase Sapphire Lounge access, which I have one of in my home airport, that being here in Austin, Texas. So that is a big reason that I really wanted to upgrade. Then it gives you other things too, of course, like a global entry, TSA PreCheck, or Nexus fee credit. Some of the best travel travel insurances in the entire credit card game, and no foreign transaction fee, of course, plus a ton of other stuff, but those are the main ones that at least I care about. And for a lot of people, the Chase Sapphire Reserve might not be the best option for you. And I would generally recommend that people at least try out the preferred first. And then if they're like really wanting some lounge access and stuff like that, that would then be the time to upgrade. With an effective annual fee of roughly $250 a year, when you take out that $300 annual travel credit, you're going to have to value stuff like lounge access pretty highly, over $250 a year, or maybe use the portal a lot because that extra 25% boost could cover that effective annual fee for you as well. So you do need to run the numbers for yourself. And while I think it's an awesome card for me, I'm getting a lot of value out of it in my first year of holding it, I wouldn't recommend it to everybody. But if you're somebody with a Chase Sapphire Lounge in your home airport, I would strongly at least look at this credit card. So again, with this being my ranking, of course, I'm going to rank this according to how much value I've been getting from it. And once again, I do not think that this card is an S tier credit card. Maybe it is for the right person, but as we've been talking about with all of Chase's cards, I would really like to see them add some extra value to them this year or just very soon, because they can't always compete with the other cards on the market, at least as it comes to like earning categories mainly. So I'm once again going to slot this card also in A tier. Whether it is above or below the Chase Sapphire Preferred is difficult, and I think it just depends on who has it. When it comes to straight up benefits, it gives you way more value than the Preferred does. But if all you need from a Chase credit card is access to the partners, then you don't need the Chase Sapphire Reserve. I would say though that for me, I'm going to likely get more value from the Reserve this year than I will from the Preferred, or I guess than I would have from the Preferred. So I'm going to slot it in front of the Chase Sapphire Preferred and have it as the top A tier credit card in my setup, at least for now. We'll see if anything takes it over later. Okay, so we are out of the Chase card madness here for a little bit. As you can see, I started with all Chase credit cards and really worked my way through their system. And these days I'm less interested in Chase cards besides their business cards, which we'll talk about later. But let's move on to another lender, this being the fourth credit card that I ever applied for fresh, and that is the Citi Custom Cash. Now, I don't even actually have the Citi Custom Cash in either of my wallets, and that's because I use it as my gas station credit card and leave it in my car. And the biggest reason I got this card is literally just to use it for gas. It does have a base welcome offer of 20,000 points after spending $1,500 on the card in the first 6 months of having it. But the earning categories is what most people know this card for. It's basically going to give you 5% back on your top eligible spending category every single month, up to $500 spent in that month, and then 1% after that and 1% on everything else. It's also a card with no annual fee, which is helpful. But the way that this card really helps people is that it kind of fills in those gaps in your setup where you're not earning as much as you would like to with your other cards. And as you can see from this list so far, I had all Chase credit cards and none of them offered any gas category except for my Chase Freedom Unlimited during the welcome offer period. So once that expired, I knew I needed a new gas station credit card, and the Citi Custom Cash fit that perfectly. I never spend more than $500 a month on gas, so I knew I could lock in 5% back on all of those purchases and just start racking up some points, really at the highest multiplier I could out of basically any credit card on the market. So it's really not like a star-studded credit card by any means, but it is very popular because of that use case of being able to fill in those gaps in your setup. And for me, it's probably the one credit card that has actually been utilized the most out of my entire setup, and is at least the most consistent card in my day-to-day setup, which I think says a lot. And originally I was thinking like maybe it's a B tier credit card, like a little bit above average. But the more I thought about it, I was like, there's really not that many credit cards that offer the same benefits that the Custom Cash does, at least from like the big four lenders that I've been getting credit cards from. And with the ability to later use my points through the Citi Premier credit card, if I get that added to my setup for travel, that 5x back becomes worth a lot more than that. Maybe it could be worth like 10% back or more, depending on what partners I use. So for that reason, it being in a good ecosystem, as well as serving a purpose that not many other credit cards can, I'm also going to put this one in A tier. So that's going to be our third A tier card here in a row. I do not think that it serves any better purpose for me than the Preferred or the Reserve do though. So it's going to be a little bit lower down on my A tier list here, but I would say it does get better utilized than the Freedom Unlimited or my other two Freedom cards as well. So for me, A tier seems about right. Now we start getting into some more fun cards here in my daily setup. And the next card I ever applied for, that being my fifth credit card, was the Amex Gold card. Now this credit card is one that I would imagine every single one of y'all have at least heard of or have in your setups. And the reason for that is because it just offers some of the best earning categories for your food purchases that any credit card on the market does. And it earns in one of the most valuable ecosystems in the world, that being Amex membership rewards points. Once again, as for the value that I have personally gotten from this card, it all started with the amazing welcome offer I got, which to my knowledge is still the best welcome offer that's ever been available on this credit card. And that was for 90,000 points after spending $4,000 in the first 3 months of having it. Plus it was like up to $250 back in statement credits for food purchases for the first year of having it or something like that. And the base offer right now is 60,000 points for spending $6,000 in the first 6 months. So as you can tell, that was like a really good offer for me to be able to lock in back then. It was only available through referral links in incognito mode. So that goes for any Amex card if y'all didn't know about this. Copy those links from really any creator that you're applying from or from your friends. Open up an incognito browser and paste it in there, and that will give you the highest odds of having an elevated welcome offer appear. And if you don't get it the first time, just keep trying and trying again until you get that highest offer that you know is available right now. But yeah, that welcome offer gave me, more value than I would earn from spending in multiple years. So it's really important to lock those in at the highest level possible. As for earning categories though, like I mentioned, that's kind of the bread and butter of this credit card. I guess no pun intended because this is a food credit card, bread and butter, but you got me. But it gives you 4x back on restaurants worldwide and 4x back on grocery stores within the US. Plus it does give you 3x back on flights booked either with the airline or through Amex Travel, which is a pretty niche use case, but is really nice. Now this card is not free though. It has a $250 annual fee, and we need to be able to claw back some value from that. And the main way that everybody does it, and how I do it personally, are through the 2 credits that it has on it. One being a $120 Uber cash credit split into $10 per month increments, and the other being a $120 dining credit split into the same increments. And those credits are activated through specific restaurants or through Grubhub, which is what I personally use it for. The way I use them is really for Uber Eats and Grubhub, and I always set them to pickup so I don't have to either tip the driver or pay any of the delivery fees or anything like that. I just go get it myself and only buy food from restaurants I would have bought from anyways, but just get $10 back because that's how credit should be used. And while I don't use these both every single month, my effective annual fee is a lot lower than the $250 that it has at its sticker price. And I would imagine is closer to $100 or maybe even like $50. Like I do use them very frequently. It has other benefits as well, and since it's more of a travel credit card, also has no foreign transaction fees. But the fact of the matter is most people use this as their main Amex point accumulator because it just earns so many points on your food purchases, and especially if you have a family, earning 4x back on all of those food purchases, which is stuff we need every single day, can really add up over time. And for me, being a single person, it doesn't add up as much as you would think, hence why the welcome offers are also important for me. But once I have a family, God, this card is going to get a lot of use. Now, there's really only one place that the Amex Gold card deserves to be slotted in, and that is, of course, D tier. Well, really only D tier if that was the rose gold version, but since it's classic gold, we'll be slotting that into the S tier column. Jokes aside, I think both colors are all right, but I am a classic gold man at heart. And color aside, I just don't think that there is really as popular of a credit card on the entire credit card market, or one that can really compete with the earning categories of this card, being that it does earn in one, if not the most valuable point ecosystems on the entire credit card market. Yes, you can get 5% cash back on both of those categories using other credit cards, or maybe even better than that in some situations. But the fact that you can, maybe on average get 2 cents per point plus for your Amex points every single year means that 4x back is really 8% back or more, hence why you just cannot really beat this credit card. I only put it in S tier for me because I do use the credits and I do understand that I'm going to be using their points for travel only. If you're not somebody in either of those boats, then this is not an S tier credit card for you and you should probably not apply for it. I've made a full video breaking down my overall thoughts on this card and why it might not actually be the best out there. But for my personal situation, it has been an S tier credit card for me, hence why I still keep it open, even though I don't love the monthly credits aspect and all that stuff. Sticking in the same Amex vein, the next credit card we have here is the first business credit card I ever applied for, and one that I still use in my wallet to this day, that being the Amex Blue Business Plus. Now, when I applied for this credit card, I just went for the base 15,000 point welcome offer after spending $3,000 in the first 3 months of having it. The welcome offer is not great, but it at least gives you something. And the main reason I really wanted this card was to start my business credit card journey, and I knew that the Amex Blue Business Plus would probably be my easiest bet at getting it. Plus, since I had just applied for the Amex Gold card, I knew that I should not get any hard pulls for the Amex Blue Business Plus, and that's because Amex will generally only hard pull your first credit card with them and then soft pull the rest. So that, in combination with the fact that this card has no annual fee and just gives you 2x back on all of your business purchases, at least up to the first $50,000 spent in the year and then 1% after that, was reason enough for me to pull the trigger on this card. Now, there's really not much else to say about this card besides the fact that it just gives you a flat 2x back on everything. And honestly, that's something that I kind of love about it. It's similar to the Chase Ink Unlimited in that way, which we'll talk about later. But a reason that I think this card is actually a lot better than people give it credit for is because, well, for one, it's earning Amex membership rewards points, which does pool with your personal credit cards and can all be used for travel with Amex's transfer partners. But further than that, out of Amex's main line of credit cards, those being like the charge cards and the Amex Blue Business Plus, it's the only one out of those that has no annual fee, but also gives you access to the transfer partners. And the beauty of that is that if you did end up wanting to cancel all of your annual fee Amex credit cards, like if I didn't want my Amex Gold anymore, I could keep my point balance alive through the Amex Blue Business Plus and still use them just as if I had those high annual fee cards. So really for that reason alone, and the fact that it was my first ever business credit card and gave me actually a really high limit right off the bat, means that this is also going to be an A-tier credit card for me. It's just so easy to get value from and is one that is more of like a peace of mind card in my setup that I just love having in the background. So I really just don't see it fitting anywhere else on this list. Okay, we're working our way through here. I know we're going through a lot, but as with all of my videos, I always try to give y'all more information rather than less, so you hopefully leave feeling like you learned something. So let's keep going down this path, why don't we? Now, the next credit card I applied for was another business credit card because I was really just trying to lock in some welcome offers while not impacting my Chase 524 status. But I did want to move back to the Chase side of things because I was starting to likely run low on points, and there were some elevated offers out there for the Chase Inc. business credit cards, specifically the free ones, the Chase Inc. Unlimited and Chase Inc. Cash. And the first one that I decided to apply for was the Chase Inc. Cash. Now, there's a lot to kind of talk about with this card, hence why I made a full 1-year review on it recently so y'all can, understand more of my opinions on it. But the big reason that a lot of people get this card is going to be mainly for the welcome offer, to be honest. I applied for it during the elevated welcome offer period of 90,000 points for spending $6,000 in the first 3 months of having it. Its base offer is the same spending requirement, but just gives you 75,000 points, which is also amazing for a no annual fee card. We're talking about the difference between the Blue Business Plus and the Chase Inc. Cash. 15,000 points, 90,000 points. That is insane. So that was the first main reason I went with it. The other reason I went with the Chase Inc. Cash first before the Unlimited was because, one, I just applied for the Blue Business Plus, so I was using that for my catch-all purposes, but also because the Chase Inc. Cash has some extra special earning categories, that being 5x back on the first $25,000 spent in combined purchases at office supply stores and on internet, cable, and phone services, plus 2x back on the first $25,000 spent at gas stations and restaurants each year, and then 1% on everything else. But those 5x categories were intriguing to me, and while I was in college when I applied for this card, I was paying for my phone bill, my internet bill, the cable bill, all of that myself. So I locked in 5x back on all of those purchases, and being that this is a Chase business credit card and one that earns Chase Ultimate Rewards points, I could also pool all of the points earned on this card over to my Sapphire Preferred at the time, which is, before I product changed to the Reserve, and use all of these points for transfer partners, which was really game changing. This card netted me over 100,000 points in the first 3 months of having it, and then gave me 5x back on some kind of pesky categories that I didn't have covered anywhere else for a few months at least before I moved. Now, things have changed with this credit card. If I was to have ranked this card whenever I first applied for it, I would have put it a bit higher than I'm going to put it here today. But these days, I don't pay for any cable. My internet bill is handled through my rental system, so that's going through my Bilt credit card now. And this card does not give you any cell phone protection, so even though I would get 5x back on those purchases, I'd rather take a lower rate of return, even 1x back on my Bilt Mastercard, for example, but get that cell phone protection through that card rather than paying for that through my cell phone provider. So basically what I'm saying here is I don't use any of the 5x categories. I know there are some methods to using that 5x on office supply store categories to really give you a bunch of value on this card, but I don't personally use those or recommend that other people do, just for the sake of being, I guess, more risk averse with your credit cards. So for me these days, this card really doesn't get used for anything. I just put a couple of I think my YouTube Premium and all the memberships that I've signed up for all my, friends of the channel. That's all I put on this card, and that's all it really ever gets used for. So I don't think it's a D tier card for me necessarily, because I did get that massive welcome offer, which is still paying me dividends to this day, but I don't think it deserves to go any higher really than just an average credit card for me. I would even slot it in under the OG Chase Freedom because I at least use these 5x rotating categories here and there. The Chase Inc. Cash though really just does not get used from me. Now we go back to my daily wallet here to talk about the 8th credit card I applied for, something like that. That being the Capital One Venture X. Now I just recently made a very in-depth review of this card as well, and I would recommend that you go watch that after this one because that covers way more than I'm going to be able to do right here. But to give y'all a hopefully brief rundown here, y'all know that I can tend to talk long as this video is showing. Whenever I signed up for the card, I got the base welcome offer of 75,000 points for spending $4,000 in the first 3 months of having it. As for earning categories, I don't personally use these first two, but it gives you 10x miles on hotels and car rentals booked through Capital One Travel. I guess I do use that car car rental one, so I shouldn't have said that, but for the most part, don't use it for that. You also get 5x back on all flights booked through the Capital One travel portal and 2x on all other purchases, which is what I use this card for. This card does have a $395 annual fee though, so of course we need to get some value back from that. The main way people do that is through the first one being the annual travel credit of $300. That is only rewarded by booking travel through their portal though, which a lot of people hate about this card. I personally have no issues with that. It's very easy for me to book one paid hotel or car rental or whatever through their portal and then get that money back. I would have already paid for that anyways, especially for these like more boutique hotels and stuff like that that might not be accessible through transfer partners. So for me, easy enough to get value back from that. And then on top of that, it gives you 10,000 bonus miles every year for renewing the card, which is worth at least $100, meaning that already you're covering the annual fee on this card with just really no effort. On top of that, it gives you special lounge access to the Capital One lounges and the Plaza Premium lounges, on top of a Priority Pass Select membership, but this one does not give you access to the restaurants and spas like the Sapphire Reserve does. It gives you access to Capital One's transfer partners, which can be really, really powerful, especially if you're traveling internationally or even some domestically through like Turkish Airlines and stuff like that. But that's a little bit more of an advanced strategy that I'm personally going to be learning about and talking about on the channel here pretty soon. It gives you that global entry or TSA pre-check credit that a lot of luxury travel credit cards give you. It has great travel protections, no foreign transaction fee, 4 free authorized users, which is really big. That's one of the biggest perks with this card, to be honest. If you travel with a family and want lounge access for all of your family members for free, well, I guess for the cost of that one card, this is the way to do that. And really the main reason I've used this card in the last year or so, aside from the 2x back on all of your purchases and for the welcome offer and stuff like that, was for the Hertz President Circle status that it gives you. But they are getting rid of that in 2025. So my ranking in 2025 for this card might be very different. But as for right now, I think that this card is one of the easiest credit cards to get value from and is the best first step in the luxury travel credit card game. It's more of like a mid-tier premium travel credit card, but it was the one that got me started on my journey towards those higher tier cards like the Chase Sapphire Reserve, and it's literally like it's just so easy to get value from if you're somebody that's okay with using their travel portal at least once a year. So that, in combination with the fact that I've gotten multiple rental cars through Hertz President Circle status and have had great experiences with those, plus many other things I'm sure that I'm forgetting here, but this all accumulates to the fact that I think that the Venture X, as it sits right now, is still an S tier credit card in my opinion. However, Capital One keeps taking away benefits from this credit card, and I think, like I said, even in another year, my ranking for this card might be drastically different. So maybe we'll have to redo this again next year with all the changes that will hopefully be made to all of these credit cards. And when I say hopefully, I mean hopefully for the better, but with the Venture X, it's not looking good. Okay, and now we go back to my backup wallet here for our next credit card we're going to talk about, that being the Amex Amazon Prime Business Credit Card. Something like that at least. I don't know exactly what it's called. This card, really simple. We're going to zoom through this section here. First reason I got it was because it gave a $125 Amazon gift card immediately after getting approved for it. Also, it's an Amex credit card, meaning that I would not get a hard pull for this application. And back then I was trying to really manage my 524 status effectively, which I guess I'm still doing today, but I did not want any more hard pulls on my report and didn't want to add to my 524 count. So an Amex business credit card is perfect for that situation. And then further than that, this card gives you 5% back on all of your Amazon purchases. So very similar to the personal Amazon Prime Visa through Chase, but again, being a business credit card, it just gets you around those annoying things like adding to your 524 status and stuff like that. There's also an option to use this card to give you like 90-day interest-free periods. I don't ever carry a balance on any of my credit cards, so I just use it for 5% back on Amazon purchases. And then it also does give you 2% back at US restaurants, gas stations, and wireless phone services directly through US service providers, and 1% on everything else. I literally only use it for Amazon though. I think that's kind of what everybody uses this card for, and it serves that purpose great. Do note that it does not have any annual fee on it, but to get the Business Prime credit card, you have to have an Amazon Prime or I guess Business Prime membership. I got this card though by being a household member on my mom's Amazon account, meaning that I got gifted basically my own Amazon Prime account, and I was able to apply for this card and could get the personal version as well under my name, not associated with her. So we paid for one Prime membership, now technically have 2 of them, and I got the cards for myself, which is pretty cool and a nice little trick. If y'all didn't know you could do that, it's worth giving it a shot. But yeah, overall for me, use this card for 5% back on Amazon. It does that really well, and that's really the highest earning category you're gonna get on Amazon, besides maybe like 1 or 2 other credit cards out there. But with it being a business card from Amex and one that was basically just a ghost card to my credit report, means that it's not just average, I think it is above average, but nothing better than that, so it's gonna sit here in B tier. The next card up was moving back into the Chase ecosystem here for a little bit. it. And this card was mainly sparked by my buddy Stan the Credit Frog, who I hope that all of y'all know at this point, because he's a great dude and just an awesome channel as well. But I had watched a video on his about the whole Marriott free night award strategy. And a card that I've always like had in the back of my head that I might want in the future is the Ritz-Carlton credit card, which is a card that you can only get by product changing to it. And you have to product change from a lower tier Chase Marriott credit card with a $10,000 plus credit limit on it after a year of holding it. So in order to start that clock for myself, I decided it would be a good time to apply for the Marriott Boundless credit card. And another thing that kind of pushed me towards applying for it earlier than I was kind of expecting was the fact that it had one of those limited time 5 free night award offers on it, worth up to 50,000 points each for spending $5,000 in the first 3 months of having it. I do believe that that offer, it might have just expired, but I do believe it's still up at the time of me recording this. So again, check the links down below for that. But the base offer is still for 3 free nights after $3,000 worth of spend in 3 months. So still a pretty good offer nonetheless. I really don't care much at all about the earning categories on this card, but just so y'all know, it gives you an additional 6x back at Marriott properties, 3x back on the first $6,000 spent at grocery stores, gas stations, and dining, and 2x on everything else. That sounds really powerful, but Marriott points are only worth generally like 0.84 cents per point. But this card does give you 1 free night every single year after your first card member anniversary, and that's worth up to 35,000 points. So that right there would cover the $95 annual fee on this card every single year for you. But again, for me, I really just wanted to get it to eventually product change to the Ritz-Carlton card. I will be using that free night before I product change though, because I'm not going to waste a 35,000 point free night. And I also still have not used all my 5 free nights yet. Like I haven't used a single one. So if y'all have recommendations for that, of course, leave those down below. But it also will give you like automatic Marriott Bonvoy Silver Elite status, 15 Elite Night credits every single year for holding it, and a bunch of other ways to earn higher status. Also has no foreign transaction fees and more. So it's a pretty solid credit card at $95 a year. And this card could probably go higher than I'm about to list it, but I just think as a standalone, it does lack a little bit of power and I wish it had a little bit more to it. But bang for your buck wise, it's really great. Hence why I'm going to put it in the B tier as well. All right, last 2 credit cards here, guys. These are the 2 that I applied for on the same exact day. We're going to break them down one by one, of course, but they're a lot quicker than the rest. So for starters, we have my most recent and last business credit card I've applied for recently, that being the Chase Ink Unlimited. Once again, I applied for this card during the elevated 90,000 point welcome offer period for spending $6,000 in the first 3 months of having it. That was the biggest reason that I applied for it, because I already have the Amex Blue Business Plus that gives me 2x on all of my purchases. The Chase Ink Unlimited only gives you 1.5x on all of your purchases. But similar to the Chase Freedom Unlimited, I would take 1.5 Chase Ultimate Rewards points all day, even over 2x Amex Membership Rewards points, just because of how many Chase points I need to use every year. So I wanted to swap all of my business spend from the Blue Business Plus to the Ink Unlimited, except for my in-person purchases, because this card has no raised numbering on it and I can leave it in my extra wallet and it fits just right. So this card gets used all the time online. It gets used for all my editing and all of that stuff. All the large expenses for this business run through this card. And it's very simple, 1.5 on everything, just has a massive, massive welcome offer for a no annual fee card. And since I can use it with peace of mind, knowing that in any situation, I'll be getting that 1.5x, I'm actually going to slot this card higher than the Chase Ink Cash for my personal situation. Again, it might not be the best for you, but I'm going to put it up in the B tier. If you're somebody that does utilize those 5x or 2x categories on the Ink Cash, you would very easily maybe swap these cards out. But for the way that I use my credit cards right now, the Ink Unlimited is the better of the 2 cards for me and gets the most use out of really any of my business credit cards. So while it doesn't offer anything extra like the Blue Business Plus, I do think that once again, it's better than average. And if it's earned a spot in my wallet as one that I use very frequently, it's got to be better than a C tier. Now, last but definitely not least is the very famous Bilt Mastercard. Now, I could talk about this card for a very long time, which I did recently, again, in another video. And the fact of the matter is that this card is the only one on the entire credit card market that gives you any rewards on your rent purchases. On top of that, it gives you 3x back on dining, 2x back on travel, and the rent category is 1x back as well as 1x on everything else. But the 1x back on rent is with no transaction fees. Most rental portals will charge you 3% for using a credit card. By using your Bilt card, you wipe that and get 1x on all those purchases. So it's pretty nice. You do have to use this card 5 times every single month in order to actually get the points on it, which can be a little bit annoying, but even just for the fact that it stands in a category of its own when it comes to giving you any rewards on rent, plus has access to some, if not the best transfer partners out there. And I say that for, Chase and Amex as well, but Bilt has arguably better transfer partners than both of them. And this card has no annual fee. So all of that in combination with Bilt Rent Day, which gives you like really massive transfer bonuses, no matter what status you have with Bilt, gives you double points on the first of every month for all your non-rent spend and gives you access to Bilt experiences and stuff like that. Plus many other benefits with this card makes it to where it's really hard to argue that it's not like the best travel credit card on the entire credit card market with no annual fee. So to wrap these rankings up today, I really have no choice, in my opinion, but to put the Bilt Mastercard in S tier as well. I think it really is not just like the best travel credit card with no annual fee, but one of the best no annual fee credit cards out right now, and does even like directly compete with the Chase Sapphire Preferred with its earning categories and the transfer partners and everything. So to me, while it's not like the top of S tier, like maybe the Amex Gold card would be, I do think it deserves to be in this like special or super tier here at the top. So there you have it. As always, this video is way longer than I expected it to be, but hopefully y'all learned a lot from this one. We talked about all 12 of my credit cards, really all, I guess like 14 or so, since I have a couple of cards I've product changed to or from. And while you hopefully really understand why I ranked these where I did, if you're interested in understanding like what cards I plan on applying for next with this setup I currently have, and you can maybe understand what gaps I have in my setup and stuff like that, please click into this video next to see my most recent updated credit card roadmap at the time of me recording this video. I think y'all can see Odin there, but as always, we really appreciate y'all watching this video. If you did enjoy, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel, and we'll catch you guys next time.